Imagine a woman who gave everything for her country, fighting in 2 tours in Afghanistan, saving lives and surviving a deadly IED explosion. Now, she's back home, facing judgment for something she never asked for. Her scars. Emma Sullivan, a 34-year-old veteran, fights daily not just to rebuild her life, but to survive the cruelty of strangers who judge her by her appearance. But one moment, one brave teenager, and the truth will come to light, shattering the silence and teaching everyone what real courage looks like. Stay tuned to witness how Emma's story changes everything. Emma Sullivan, 34, was a veteran who'd faced the fire of 2 tours in Afghanistan. Can you imagine the courage that takes? 3 years back, an IED explosion seared visible scars across her face and neck, a permanent map of survival carved into her skin. When she came home, hoping to rebuild her life, at administrative jobs that fit her military skills vanished like smoke the moment employers saw her. 6 months of soul-crushing rejections later, Emma took a waitressing job at Dottie's Diner in her sleepy rural hometown. Why? Because she had rent to pay, and Dottie's was the only place that opened its doors to her. Each day, Emma poured her heart into her work, never once complaining, never breathing a word about her past. She taught herself to shrug off the stares, the hushed whispers, the way parents clutched their kids tighter when she neared their tables. How does someone endure that kind of scrutiny? On this bustling Sunday morning, the diner buzzed with the after-church crowd. Emma, balancing 3 plates on one arm and a pitcher of orange juice in the other, was a picture of grit. As she gently placed a stack of pancakes on a table, a venomous whisper slithered through the air. Why would they hire someone who looks like that? It's disgusting. Emma turned away, her silence a shield, but the pitcher in her hand quivered, sending ripples across the orange juice. Dottie, the diner's owner, saw it all from behind the counter. Did she stand up for Emma? No, she frowned at her, as if Emma's mere existence was the problem. A little boy, trailing his mother, pointed right at Emma's face and shouted, "Mommy, what's wrong with that lady's face?" The mother yanked his arm, scurrying off without a glance at Emma. "Don't stare," she snapped, loud enough for the whole diner to hear. "It's rude to gawk at people like that." Emma forced a smile, clinging to the breathing trick her therapist taught her. In through the nose, count to 4, out through the mouth, count to 6. That rhythm had carried her through firefights in Kabul. Surely it could get her through a Tennessee brunch, right? "Order up for table 7, the cook hollered. Emma grabbed the plate, straightening her name tag, which bore a tiny American flag pin, the only nod to her service she allowed herself. Most customers didn't even notice it. "More coffee over here," a man at table 5 barked, waving impatiently, only to flinch when he saw Emma approach. She acted like she didn't see it. In a rare quiet moment, she slipped into the bathroom, splashing cold water on her face. The mirror showed scars that surgery couldn't fully erase, pink, puckered skin tugging at her right eye, a dimple etched into her cheek. Emma had stopped noticing them years ago. Why couldn't everyone else? Back in the dining room, she caught a teenage boy at table 9 staring not at her scars but into her eyes, his hand over his heart in a gesture that screamed military respect. What was that about? Emma pressed on, but the weight of judgment grew heavier. The whispers louder, the stares bolder. Even Melissa, the other waitress, started snatching tables from Emma's section. "Table 4 needs a refill," Melissa said, avoiding Emma's gaze. "Maybe I should take it. They're picky." Emma got the hint. "I've got my section," she said softly, grabbing the coffee pot. At table 4, an older man in a golf shirt sneered, his disgust plain as day. "Can't someone normal bring our food?" The words hit like a punch. How could they sting so much after all she'd been through? Emma's eyes dropped, tears threatening as she mumbled, "Sorry, sir, I'll find someone else." His companion, dripping with expensive jewelry, chimed in, "We're just trying to eat, you know. It's distracting." Emma nodded, retreating 7 steps to the kitchen, just enough to hold it together. Dottie cornered her behind the counter, pulling her into the staff room, the air thick with cigarette smoke and cheap air freshener. "Emma, honey." Dottie fidgeted with receipts, dodging Emma's eyes. "I value your work ethic." "I do, but if customers are uncomfortable..." Emma's heart cracked, but her voice stayed steady. "You're saying it's bad for business. What? Hide me in the kitchen or stick me on night shifts when it's dark?" She'd earned a Purple Heart, coordinated medevacs under gunfire, and now she was being told to vanish because her scars made people squirm. "I'll finish my shift," she said, resolute. Back in the dining room, that teenage boy at table 9 was still watching, his 16-year-old eyes carrying a wisdom beyond his years. His gaze held no judgment, just a quiet intensity. Why did it feel so familiar? At table 8, a group of men in business casual laughed loudly. "Hey Jim," one called, pointing at Emma. "That horror movie we saw last week, the monster looked just like her." The table erupted in laughter, one guy looking uneasy but joining in anyway. What they didn't know, how could they, was that Emma's scars came from shoving 2 soldiers out of harm's way during an explosion that killed 3 others. The military called her actions extraordinary heroism in the face of grave danger. She dragged a wounded comrade 100 yards to safety, bleeding and broken herself, yet here she was, swallowing their mockery with the same steel she'd shown on the battlefield. The boy at table 9 shifted, almost standing, but his mother's gentle hand on his arm stopped him. His eyes never left Emma, tracking every cruel jab she endured. Emma had no idea he was Tyler James, son of Captain Michael James, a soldier from her unit. Tyler had grown up on stories of the fearless medic who saved lives under fire. His dad had shown him photos, including one of Emma, pre-scars, proud in her uniform. Tyler knew her instantly, not by her scars but by those fierce, determined eyes, the same ones in the picture on his family's mantle. The diner's tension spiked when 4 loud men in golf gear swaggered into Emma's section. "Yo, Scarface, service over here," one bellowed, sparking roars of laughter. Emma approached, notepad ready, her smile unshaken despite their cruelty. "Welcome to Dottie. What can I get started for you?" Another man leaned in, smirking. "What's with your face? Bar fight? Car wreck? Come on, spill." Emma sidestepped it. "I'd recommend the pancake special, fluffy and delicious. Or our country breakfast. Comes with." "I asked you a question," he growled, his tone turning ugly. "What's wrong with your face?" The diner went quiet, everyone watching. Dottie fiddled with the register. Melissa vanished into the kitchen, and Emma stood alone. "I was injured serving in Afghanistan," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Now, about your order." "Afghanistan," one scoffed, elbowing his buddy. "Bet she was peeling potatoes and burned herself." "A woman in combat. Hilarious." Emma's hand shook, her pen scratching unevenly on her notepad. She'd been a combat medic, part of a forward surgical team, but why bother explaining? "I'll give you folks a minute to decide," she said, turning away. "I asked you a question," the man growled, his voice dripping with menace. "What's wrong with your face?" The diner froze, every breath held, every eye locked on Emma. Dottie, behind the counter, fiddled with the register, pretending not to notice where was her back. Melissa, the other waitress, had conveniently vanished into the kitchen. Emma stood tall, her heart pounding but her voice steady as steel. "I was injured serving in Afghanistan," she said quietly. "Now, can I take your order?" "Afghanistan," one of the men snorted, elbowing his buddy with a smirk. "What, did she spill hot grease on herself in the kitchen? A woman in combat? Give me a break." Emma's hand trembled, her pen scratching jagged lines across her notepad. She'd been a combat medic, saving lives under fire with a forward surgical team. Why bother explaining to these clowns? "I'll give you gentlemen a moment," she said, turning to escape their cruelty. "No, wait," one barked, deliberately knocking his water glass to the floor with a crack. "Look at the mess you caused with your shaking. Clean it up." Emma knelt, gathering the shattered glass, her cheeks burning as dozens of eyes bored into her. How could humiliation sting this much after surviving war? "Emma!" Dottie's voice sliced through the silence as she stormed from behind the counter. "You're making everyone uncomfortable. Clock out now." Emma stood, shards of glass still in her hands, her voice steady despite the ache in her chest. "I haven't finished my It's not working out," Dottie snapped, her eyes darting away. "These disruptions are bad for business." Emma froze, not from shock but from the sheer effort to keep from crumbling. She'd faced worse, far worse, but this betrayal cut deep. "You're firing me because of how I look." The words slipped out, raw and unstoppable. "I'm firing you because customers are complaining," Dottie muttered, unable to meet Emma's gaze. The diner's air grew thick, suffocating. Some patrons stared at their plates, shamed. Others gawked with twisted curiosity. No one said a word. Where was their courage? Then Tyler, the teenage boy from table 9, rose to his feet. He stepped from his family's booth, striding to the diner's center with a fire in his eyes. His mother reached for him, whispering, "Tyler, sit down," but he brushed her hand away. "Can I say something?" he asked, his voice cracking with the raw emotion of youth. The room turned, stunned by the interruption, and the diner fell deathly silent. Tyler locked eyes with Emma, then faced the crowd of strangers. His voice grew bold, ringing with conviction as he spoke 6 words that shattered the tension. "She saved my father's life, twice." The words hung there, simple yet earth-shaking. Tyler pulled a worn photo from his wallet, holding it high. "This is my dad," he said, showing a soldier in combat gear, arm around a female medic. Emma, before her scars. "Captain Michael James, 10th Mountain Division, 2 Purple Hearts." He stepped closer to Emma, his posture radiating respect. "My dad told us how their convoy was ambushed, how Sergeant Sullivan." Emma dragged him from a burning Humvee after an IED exploded. Tyler's voice steadied, each word a hammer. "She carried him nearly a football field under enemy fire. She shielded him with her own body from another blast." Emma stood rooted, tears streaming down her scarred face. How could this boy know her story? "Those scars you're all staring at." Tyler challenged the room. "That's what courage looks like." An elderly man in the corner rose slowly, his movements heavy with purpose. "I served in Vietnam," he declared, 48 years ago. "I've sat here silent, watching this disgrace unfold." He faced Emma, snapping a crisp salute. "Ma'am, I'm sorry for my cowardice today." A woman nearby wiped tears from her cheeks, whispering, "I'm so ashamed." Even the men who'd mocked Emma sat speechless, their smugness crushed by a teenager's truth. Dottie approached Emma, her earlier bravado gone, replaced by raw regret. "Emma, I didn't know. I never asked." "You never asked any of us," Tyler shot back, his voice cutting through the room. "You judged her by her scars without knowing her story." One by one, people stood. Tyler's family first, then the Vietnam vet, then others, a quiet tribute to Emma, and a confession of their shame. The diner erupted in applause, not for great service or a special occasion, but because they finally saw the beauty in the scars they'd scorned. How could they have been so blind? Within a week, Dottie's diner had a new sign in the window, proudly serving veterans. "All welcome here." Emma didn't stay long after that day. Why would she? A Veterans Affairs rep reached out, offering her a job as a communications coordinator for their outreach program. "We need people who get what it means to come home," they said. On her last day at the diner, customers lined up, leaving generous tips and handwritten notes of gratitude. Some apologized face to face. Others couldn't meet her eyes, but their kindness roared. Dottie handed Emma a framed painting by a local artist. Emma in her waitress uniform, an American flag blazing behind her. "So we never forget what service looks like," Dottie said, her usual gruffness softened by genuine remorse. Tyler and his family became regulars at the VA office, where Emma worked. His father, Captain James, volunteered beside her, helping vets navigate the rocky road back to civilian life. 6 months later, Emma was invited to speak at the local high school's Veterans Day assembly. As she stepped to the podium, she saw Tyler in the front row, standing at attention like a young soldier. Could she be prouder of him? When it was his turn to introduce her, he stood tall and told his peers, "Heroes don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes they wear aprons and serve you breakfast. Sometimes they carry scars that tell stories of courage we'll never comprehend." Emma touched the raised scars along her jaw, a gesture once born of shame, but now brimming with pride. Those scars weren't flaws. They were proof she'd faced hell and lived to serve others. "Scars don't make us ugly," she began her speech. "They're the story of battles we survived, often so others could live." She paused, locking eyes with Tyler. And sometimes it just takes 6 words from a brave kid to make the whole world stop and listen. Across town, Dottie's diner unveiled a wall of honor, showcasing photos of local veterans. At its heart was Emma's picture, a small plaque beneath it, reading, "Courage serves daily." How could anyone forget her now?